Caring for someone with dementia is one of the toughest journeys, but you don't have to do it alone. I'm Allison Schreier, and my experience caring for my husband inspired me to create Zinnia, a therapeutic streaming service designed to support people living with dementia and reduce caregiver stress. Our research-backed videos are engaging, easy to follow, and they help ease the daily challenges like agitation and anxiety so that you can focus on connection and joy. Available by subscription on mobile and TV apps, Zinnia makes every day a little bit easier. Go to zinniatv.com and sign up for a free trial today. Use the code RESOURCE for 15% off an annual Zinnia subscription.
And welcome to Alzheimer's Speaks Radio. I'm your host, Lori LeBay, and I'm so excited that you're joining us today. We are going to have a fascinating conversation as usual as we learn from people all around the world at all ages and stages of life. Stay tuned as we shift our dementia care from crisis to comfort.
Here we go. What you think about, you will bring about.
Well, hi, everyone. I am so excited to have you two with me today. We've been talking about this for a while. Ginger, I've known you for quite a while through dementia chats. And when you were talking about writing your book, it was like, oh, this is going to be exciting. You know, it's always fun anytime anybody puts the time in to write a book. I think most people don't understand how much time it takes and energy. So I'm going to have you two introduce yourselves because you can do it better than I can. So Ginger, you want to start and just tell people a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hi. Nice to be on. Laura, this program is terrific. We've done it before and I admire you so much. I'm a retired speech language pathologist. I'm having my birthday at 88 on May 29th. And it happens to be the day of my book launch. So it's going to be a big day. I live in lovely California. I have a wonderful family, great-grandsons, and I'm just really happy to be here.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Shanlynn, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi. Thank you for having me on here with Ginger. Very much a pleasure. And I am just a little independent publisher who started writing books and publishing just a few years ago for my other clients who wanted to write books. And Ginger found me and we kind of just collaborated. I don't have, a big following yet or anything. I am kind of just a little guy who's trying to get started on this journey. And Ginger was a perfect opportunity to do that. So I appreciate her reaching out. And I've done a lot of different things in my life. I have a lot of experience in many things. But this is what I found is something I really enjoy, putting people's messages out there, what they want to say, because so many people don't know how to do it. And I'm pretty good at it. So that's where I am right now. I live in rural Virginia with my husband and our little dog, our little Morky. And we have 4 grown daughters all across the country that we try to visit. But other than that, I just try to advocate for the caregivers because I know just from my grandmother's experience and my own mother, myself, we've got some challenges ahead. And I've always wanted to know as much as possible about this daunting thing that is out there. And the more I dug, the more interested I became. So that's why I'm now focused on books about dementia.
Okay, wonderful. Ginger, I'm going to start off with you, and I want you to kind of take us back a little bit on what led you to your initial diagnosis and what was that, and what you were told by physicians.
Yes, about 10 years ago, I started having dementia symptoms, pretty bad ones, it ended up with me having to retire very suddenly. I couldn't do my job, and it just started getting worse. My medical provider, which is Kaiser, a biggie, I had years of trying to find the diagnosis, what it was. They came up with a bunch of different ones. A frontotemporal was the first one, but then we added the Parkinsonian movement symptoms into it. So they thought, well, maybe that's a Lewy body. So I was officially diagnosed by a psychological psychiatry team with these diagnoses that finally one of the last ones was just dementia unspecified. And we know that's just an umbrella term, so, but that was about the best one they could come up with. I kept getting sicker and sicker, more diagnoses, ended up finally in a nursing home. We'll tell that story. And then even on hospice. And I had this turnaround. The part of the book is to tell the story about how I did a turnaround, what added to it, what didn't. My research, I'm a researcher by trade. That's what I love. I still do. And it's been 3 years of working on a memoir that finally, when I met Shanlynn, the chronology was horrible because I was writing for me. I started writing for me and my anger, for instance. Now, I'm not that person anymore, but I was angry when I started the memoir. And we collaborated and got some people to read and enjoy, I hope. We got a lot of humor in it, but a lot of resources. I love to get to that point because I think that's the bottom line is I didn't write it just for me. I wrote it for others, people who have been dismissed, people who maybe they have an uncle or brother, sister who have dementia and they're worried about their own self. I wrote it for these people too. I wrote it out of love. I'm caring about people, hoping I'll be an inspiration. The story will, and all the resources I've provided.
It's interesting. You talk about all the different diagnoses you had, which is really common, and a lot of people don't understand that.
Right.
Even if they're in it, they're kind of shocked when all of a sudden the doctor says, well, maybe you have this, or maybe you have that, or no, it's not this, or no, you have them both, or all three, or whatever it is.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, mixed dementia is a big one. Uh-huh.
And they are doing so much more of the unspecified or mixed because they can't really pin it down because things overlap so much and change. But I think that's something our doctors have to get better at, preparing people that just because it was this today doesn't mean it's going to be that tomorrow. And and it seems also that depending on who you're meeting with, the terms can change and the diagnoses can change. And the patient's like, but I still have the same stuff as I told the other guy, but now you're terming it something different. So it can get really confusing for people. Now, you had said you ended up, going into a nursing home and on hospice and the whole nine yards. Our listeners are going to be interested, and I know we want them to read the book, but can you give us a little tidbit in terms of your recovery and what contributed to making those improvements, both, like medically and emotionally?
Oh, yeah, that's a big one too. I was a victim basically of polymedicine. Now, my symptoms started long before they started piling on the medication. So I want to clarify that I don't believe my dementia was induced by medication. Might have been a tiny part of it. That's the whole thing, the mystery of it. That's why I go into that so much into the book is the mystery part. But I'll go back to the polymedicine. Finally, they piled so much on me. I had a total of 20 medications at one point, about 5 of them prescribed. And when you go into hospice, they take you off all the medication. And that was pretty much of a shock to my system. But one thing that did add to my turnaround was that my brain was finally getting clear of all these mixed medications. I also want to I'm just going to throw in the autophagy real quick. I lost over 100 pounds. I stopped eating. I refused to eat food was lava to me. And I think that also cleared. I still have some word problem. I'll pop up and it won't be there. Oh, but by the bottom line, kind of my current diagnosis is called mild cognitive impairment. So I do have trouble sometimes with executive function and things like that. So you might find me having struggle with words sometimes. That autophagy is, I think, had a lot to do with it. And I want to throw in one more is resilience. You'll find out in my book, I kept overcoming one thing after another, trauma, addiction, all kinds of problems I kept recovering from. And I think that built up a sense of resilience that finally, I was 78 when had to stop working. I built up that much, but I kind of gave up right then. And that's why I went into the nursing home and I had to rebuild myself, rebuild my brain, basically. That helped.
Yeah, that does help. So when you say you gave up, and this happens, I think, to a lot of people when they get this diagnosis, it's just like, I'm going to throw in the towel. I don't want to live like this. So just let it be over with. Do you think that kind of psychologically happened to you then?
Oh, yeah. A lot of it is, well, when I was in the nursing home, it was in 2020, COVID. I totally isolated. I had one attendant. I'm hard of hearing too. Obviously, we talked about that. And people were wearing masks. Between that, I couldn't communicate with anybody, and it was months. I was months and months of just whiteness and nothing. And I think that hurt my brain because I had no stimulation.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's another part of the mystery.
Yep, that'll do it. That'll do it for sure.
Yeah.
As far as spiritually, how are you a spiritual person or a religious person? Did that have any effect on you while you were recovering?
Well, I'm an ex-speech pathologist, and so one thing about it is when I was given the diagnosis, I knew what was to expect. I knew that you're going to die in 7 years. Just go home and give up. And that's one of the reasons I'm promoting the book as a former clinician. There's so much more we can do now. Thank goodness. Even in the 10 years of my path there, in the way of therapy, in the way how people are treated now psychologically, you don't give up on someone with dementia. Just don't throw them away. We can still have. I just use a we. Joy in our lives, even though we're struggling with words, maybe, or behavioral issues, which was one of my biggies. That was one of the hardest things to get through and get through to people. That's why I want to get through to caregivers. Don't give up. Don't stop. Educate yourself. And it's out there. I have wonderful programs like DAA, Dementia Action Alliance, where I talk to people with dementia. We talk to each other. The caregivers learn so much with these wonderful programs right there. Education to me is it's right there. That's the bottom line because it's available. We don't have to give up. You should have the blood test I talk about in my book. It's now 90% positive for Alzheimer's. I think I truly think, maybe not in my lifetime, I'm 88, but they're going to come up with a cure. So Shanlynn and I both agree, get ready for that. It's going to happen. It's around the corner. Just don't give up and sit in front of your TV. Get Lori's program. Get Pippa Stowe's program. I'm going to be on that one. And educate yourself. It's out there. It's out there.
Yeah. Well, I think that social interaction is so important. And I think so many people think you get this diagnosis and it's end of life. You're in a wheelchair, you can't communicate, and life is over. And that is not the truth. My own mom lived with dementia for 30 years. And, we did one of our dementia chats with people living 10 and 20 years. And they're still doing Zoom, they're public speaking, they're running groups, they're doing all kinds of things. So, I think that positive attitude and not giving up on yourself, but pushing forward, and then finding there are a lot of these organizations like myself and Dementia Action Alliance and others that really truly want to raise the voice and hear what it's really like instead of us just guessing what it's like. And I think the general public and families in particular want to hear the real story from.
I don't want to interrupt, but I don't want to show off my book. That's one of the important things is I've reached out. I didn't just stay home and vegetate like they suggested. I managed to, and I had to come out of myself a little. I'm not that aggressive person. I'm not really, but I reached out. I have these wonderful people from the villages. I have wonderful people from PAA. I used to be a volunteer. I did a lot of volunteering, so I'm pretty proud of our book.
Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful cover. And
Thank
it's
you.
called Dementia Denied, One Woman's True Story of Surviving a Terminal Diagnosis and Reclaiming Her Life. And I think, if we can get people to understand that no matter what we're up against, life is about adapting to the next thing that drops in front of us, because there's always something that comes forward and tries to claim us and, shut us down. But it's like, how do I still continue to live my life to the fullest? And it might look a little bit different, but it doesn't have to be as drastic as everyone thinks it is if you're willing to step up and help educate. So I appreciate you writing this book and being on our show.
Caring for someone with dementia is one of the toughest journeys, but you don't have to do it alone. I'm Allison Schreier, and my experience caring for my husband inspired me to create Zinnia, a therapeutic streaming service designed to support people living with dementia and reduce caregiver stress. Zinnia offers research-backed videos intentionally created for people with dementia, engaging, calming, and easy to follow. Whether you need to ease agitation, create moments of joy, or make daily routines smoother, Zinnia is here to help. Family and professional caregivers use our content to turn challenges into opportunities for connection. Accessible by subscription on mobile devices and connected TVs, Zinnia is simple to use whenever you need it. Because when caregiving feels easier, life feels better. Go to zinniatv.com and sign up for a free trial today. Use the code RESOURCE for 15% off an annual Zinnia subscription.
What made you decide to write the book? Was there a moment in time that you're like, my story really needs to be told?
Well, like I mentioned before, when I came home, I was very, very angry, and I was helped by some people. They said, why don't you write a journal to express the feelings you had? And I started and wrote, and like Topsy, it grew, and it grew to 300 pages. And at that point, very disjointed and just full of feeling, someone suggested, hey, maybe this might be a book. And fortunately, I ran across Shanlynn because her wonderful books on caregiving, I read them, and I thought, this is real. She doesn't shy back of the tough stuff, but she loves you. So many of these movies, I have to say, they're lovely. They're written by caregivers, but they're so saccharine. Sorry about that, but they are. And Shanlynn and I, the down and dirty part, we didn't hold back, warts and all. But in the end, we came up with an inspirational story, I believe, for everybody.
Well, that's great. Ginger, you mentioned that someone told you about Shanlynn. Do you remember when that conversation happened and then when you reached out to her?
I sure do. I contacted Shanlynn through her book. She did this thing with Amazon that our book's going to be on Amazon, where you reach out to people and you ask for reviews. By the way, if anybody listening to this or reads my book, we'd love to have some reviews that'll help me too. I'm going to go back. Let's say, so I did one with Shanlynn, and she said, I have some interest in that. Why don't you tell me more? And so I said a couple of paragraphs, because I called my book originally Barking Mad, because in my story, when my kids were driving with me and they picked me up from the emergency room, I was barking at everybody. And I actually told the people I was with. I was German Shepherd. I was Hitler's German Shepherd. So I wrote that to Shanlynn. Within days, she writes back, "I'm hooked." And then we went on from there, and we were working really hard. I say, almost a year and a half, almost constantly.
Actually, it was October of last year that we started. So, but it seems longer because we really did a lot of work on this in a short amount of time. I think it was very tedious, but I think the overall work that we put into it is incredible. It turned out, I have to say, when she first contacted me and I was hooked on her story, and I said, and so she sent me the whole thing, and I think I got about 10 chapters in and realized, wow, this is something that everybody needs to know about. It's really important. Somebody has to publish this. And I realized how much time it was going to take to get it into a publishable manuscript. Mm-hmm. And I really had to come to terms with my husband. I said, I know that Ginger doesn't have the money to pay me to do this, but can we afford for me to not take any money and just, I will do this for her for free on the hope, we want that hope. Everybody wants hope, that it will make some money someday and that I will be repaid in one way or another, whether it's through, people that say this helped me and I'm helping people and knowing that I'm helping people, or even monetarily, which hopefully both. in a perfect world, it'll be both, right? And so I decided I was going to do this, and she contacted me at the perfect opportunity because it was almost like divine intervention for me. I had been looking for another book. I didn't know what subject to go to next within the dementia arena. I was 2 weeks, I was going back and forth with all these different things and doing research about all these different topics within dementia, but nothing resonated with me. And then it was boom, she sent me a message through the Facebook Messenger and told me, like she said, 2 paragraphs about, hey, I was in hospice dying and I've, come back. And I said, no, it's not possible. Tell me some more. What? And so sure enough, that's how it started. And I just felt like, my guardian angel, which I believe is my grandmother, just kind of put Ginger in front of me and said, honey, this is your next project. This is what you need to do. Don't worry about the money right now. Don't worry about all the time it's going to take. It will all work out in the end and it will be worth it. So that's why we've been working so hard on it since October. And I still feel like it's going to be great. It's just a matter of people just have to know about it. And once they know about it, and are able to read it. I've given out over 2,000 free copies already of the PDF version because I want as many people as possible to know about it. There's millions of people in the world, so what's 2,000 free copies, right? So that's where we are, and I'm hoping that obviously she's an amazing woman, and she has an amazing story, and I just felt it really needs to be told. And I know how good I am at putting books together and making them interesting to read. And I thought, you know what? That's exactly what her book needs. It's great. It was just overly, she's so smart and so good at researching. She's been in that medical field for many years, and I obviously haven't. She told it. What was the thing, Ginger, that people said that you make things like really complicated to read? And I don't know if I can say this, but I told my husband every other sentence I was having to Google something because she was talking. It was way over my head in some instances. She's very intelligent and she knows what she's talking about. And I was impressed by that as well. And so I said, I kind of got to bring this down to like a ninth grade level for everybody should be able to understand this lingo. And I was able to do that, I think, and still get the point across really well
And
because
you added all those wonderful QR codes and the links. It's full of
yes,
that sort of thing. The book,
right. And
yeah.
I
It's not
firmly
just my
believe
story.
exactly. And I firmly believe that
Yeah,
it's not just your story, it should be interesting to read, but also valuable to
yeah.
buy because we're giving so many resources and so much in-depth information that people can't help but say wow when they're done reading it.
Yeah.
That's my goal for all the books that I do is it needs to be not so serious. I like the lighthearted, a little bit of humor. People want to be able to laugh at themselves no matter how terrible of a day they're having, including me. But then also in that same vein, you can learn something on every page.
Yeah.
And that's where I think we nailed it with this. And I'm just so excited that we're able to put this out there for the whole dementia community and even others. It doesn't have to be
Right. Oh, yeah.
uh, people with dementia. It's I think it's helpful to many different, genres or people on different paths.
And yeah,
So
we quantified it too, Shanlynn. I think that's an important thing. I actually in the book is my diagnosis and the whole pages of it. So it's not just, oh, by the way, I had dementia. It's quantified. It's there. It's described in detail what the symptoms are. And it also describes in like we have a whole section called tips for caregivers, where a 20-page bonus, for instance, where people can go in and find out you touched on before, what kind of therapy can help people now with families and dementia. There's a lot of it out there now. It's a different world. When I started treating people with dementia, 20 years ago, when we were only getting, just 2 sessions, that's enough because they're not worth it. Well, that's not the case anymore. There's so much you can do.
There is a ton of resources out there that nobody knows about,
right.
and organizations that are family focused. And one of the things that I think, because I ran into the same thing with my mom. It's like, where is everybody? Where's the people? Where's the services? Where's the products and the tools to support us? And I mean, it was just like you'd yell and it would just be an echo. There was like nothing, other than this scream for help. And so it's changed a lot. And I think one of the things that I like about the change is that it has, in my opinion anyways, it's taken the medical and academic down a notch. And it's definitely lifted up the person with the diagnosis and their family up so that everybody's on an even playing field because we all have bits of knowledge that are helpful. And, to me, one isn't more of an expert than the other. And they all should play in the playground together. And I think sometimes where the medical model and academia is missing is the true understanding of the emotional impact that the disease has, what day-to-day life is really like. You can read it in a book, but if you haven't experienced it, you don't know what that is really like. And once you do know, your advice usually changes.
I'm not only a person who lived it, I taught it as a clinician. I was a caregiver. I took caregiving training. So I think I have a unique opportunity to describe something from from my heart, from my knowledge too.
Mm-hmm.
I think that adds a lot to the book too, I think.
Yeah. And it's interesting how much things have changed, but yet how much they haven't. When we have our conversations like on dementia chats, or I'm sure with you guys with DAA and stuff, people are, it's still taking way too long to get diagnosed, and they still aren't getting the resources, products, and tools when they are. And so people need to know where to find those and how to hook up. And I think all of us need to collaborate together to, raise those things up, because they're just life changing when you feel connected to the community that actually knows what it's like and has experimented with all of this stuff. And I'm not just talking trials and drugs. I'm talking about different techniques and, I don't care if it's eating or sleeping habits or talking to, the pharmacy on my medications. Do they match or don't they? To still connecting on a social level and feeling like you still belong, and are still accepted. All of those things make a huge, huge difference. So, Shanlynn, one of the things I was going to ask you, and you've kind of answered this already, but when you first read Ginger's story, if you had to pick three things, what pulled you in the most?
Three things. Well, first, that she was so open, honest, and raw with what had happened to her. I mean, this woman did not hold back anything. And I thought that just made her so genuine and so intriguing that I had to read more. And then second of all, just the premise of I was weeks from dying, but I came back. I thought, no, wait, no. I thought to myself, first of all, I would need to see this woman's medical records to verify that she, because I don't know her. I thought, well, maybe she still has some bit of dementia and she's misremembering things. You start thinking what could actually be going on here. But then the more I read, the more I realized, no, this woman is completely clear in what she's saying and what she remembers. And then the third thing, I would have to say, just what I said earlier about how much she knows about all of it, how much research she did on her own before she even reached out to me. And I was able to, figure out what she was talking about just because so many things were over my head. But once I Googled it and, just reconfigured what it was saying, everything made so much sense that I said, you know what, this woman's onto something. And I think we need to I want to go deeper, because it was as if something had been telling me, you need to do something really big now. I did 3 books. The one's doing pretty good. The other 2, not so much. And so, you're always looking for, okay, how can I improve that? I got to do something better now. And this was my wow. This was my wow, really, that I have to do this. It's going to be extremely challenging, but I've always been up for a challenge. I just have had so many health issues that I haven't been able to do as many challenges as I would like lately. But I thought, you know what? I think I can handle this one. And so I think that was the tipping point for me as I got deeper into it, and it got very technical. And I thought, wow, challenge accepted is basically what I said to myself, because she's very intelligent, but I'm intelligent in my own way. I don't even pretend to be as intelligent as Ginger and know everything she knows. She was my guide for all of the clinical stuff and things like that, on top of the research that I added to it. So it's kind of a sandwich of common sense with Ginger's expertise on top of research that I did deep dives into. So you've got this wonderful sandwich with a little bit of toppings of humor mixed in. And that's why I decided I'm going to do this.
We've got along so well. Shanlynn and I are right at the same. We fought a little bit. Shanlynn kept saying, no, you can't add that. No, you can't add that. We've got a time limit. So that was our only problem.
Honey, we could have had this book be 500 pages and it might still be just as good, but I told her, I said, we can't put out a textbook. People don't want to see that this thing is 500 pages. Otherwise, they think, oh my God, there's going to be a test at the end. But, we put a lot in there without making it, I think, too drawn out and oversharing. But I mean, she shared pretty much everything, her whole heart and soul.
Shan, let's add the part where we talk about the medical profession and we really attack it and we go into it thoroughly. All the mistakes are made of me. I was dismissed, for instance. This is for people who are living now who have that experience, but the medical profession screwing up their lives. And we to the good parts. It's not all just horrible.
Right.
We go and we support the good parts. I don't support like polypharmacy. Don't stop giving medication. Look into it. Go to the pharmacist. We talk about things like that. We have a whole section, another bonus section about that.
Caring for someone with dementia is one of the toughest journeys, but you don't have to do it alone. I'm Allison Schreier, and my experience caring for my husband inspired me to create Zinnia, a therapeutic streaming service designed to support people living with dementia and reduce caregiver stress. Zinnia offers research-backed videos intentionally created for people with dementia, engaging, calming, and easy to follow. Whether you need to ease agitation, create moments of joy, or make daily routines smoother, Zinnia is here to help. Family and professional caregivers use our content to turn challenges into opportunities for connection. Accessible by subscription on mobile devices and connected TVs, Zinnia is simple to use whenever you need it. Because when caregiving feels easier, life feels better. Go to zinniatv.com and sign up for a free trial today. Use the code RESOURCE for 15% off an annual Zinnia subscription.
In the book.
Well, that's fantastic. Ginger, I wanted you to speak directly to families who are facing kind of this whole devastation. They get a diagnosis. One of the things that people look at a diagnosis and they think it's usually one person that's affected. But this disease, it has a ripple effect, just like cancer does. No one really talks about that, but there is this huge ripple effect. And with dementia, I think it's even more so. And, what would you want families to know if their loved one gets a diagnosis?
Is that for me?
Yep.
Okay. Oh, yes, that's so important. That one thing I think the book is so important is hope. Don't give up. Educate yourself the best you can. Also, it's another thing is live that person's life. Go into their life. Treat them with respect. Give them honor. We talk a lot about things like reminiscing. I talk a lot, especially about like what therapeutic fibbing, which is a big one. So we talk about how that one works with the family, and I think it's inspirational. It's also educational. And my family is the caregivers. My poor family, what they went through with me, the hell I put them through, the type of dementia I had, with behavioral issues. That's the one that really hurts. It's bad enough you have a memory, but the behavioral ones fit deeply inside the caregivers, the shame on both sides. The person with the dementia, but the Lewy body type of one I express most. You have moments of clarity, and I would realize what I had doing to my poor family, and then I wouldn't be able to control it. There's a thing called anosognosia, where you don't realize you have a brain change deficit and you think you're fine. Like one of the things in my book, I thought I was just dandy, and I signed up for a disastrous reverse mortgage program without my family knowing it, and I never should have. And so we talk about the financial issues too in the book. Please don't let my poor family, the family's caregivers that I care about, have that horrible experience of I almost lost everything because of the mistakes. I was married because of my dementia.
Mhm.
I didn't have that control, and I thought I was just doing fine things, and didn't realize how disastrous it was and how hurt my family was because they didn't know. That's getting back to the education thing. At that point is that if that family had known, if they'd been working with maybe a social program, would have been talking about it. They might not have ever happened.
I think too, sometimes families like, because I am in control, you don't need to know my business. You've never known my business. So stay out of my financial business. And that egg doesn't crack until something really bad happens for many, many families. They don't pre plan with the powers of attorney and letting people know that if something happens down the line or if my symptoms get worse, this is where I bank. Here's my attorney, my financial planner. These are my healthcare, wishes. Everyone's afraid to have those conversations because what if they take over? What if I lose my independence? And so we need to do, I think, a lot of education for families in terms of how do you approach this? How do you be respectful? We're never going to get rid of all the scammers and some of those run in our families.
Oh, I go into that because when I came home from from nursing home, I got scammed by four different men. One of them said he was a general of all things. I go thoroughly into that. I am right now. One of my hobbies is exploiting these scammers on Facebook. I spend a lot of time doing that, protecting vulnerable women against these horrible, horrible people.
Yeah.
Gangs of people, I should say, not really one person. Yeah, my book goes into that. It describes what these scammers really are. For instance,
Mm-hmm.
there's usually a team of teenagers go from one to another, and I go into that quite a bit because it happened to me, and I want to protect women and not have that happen to them. And
Yeah, I know for myself, I get the little Facebook, I want to be your friend, and if I see it's any military, it's like nope, because I know that is in it. Sorry for people who really are in the military, but they really have leveraged that so badly, especially when you're seeing the generals and the colonels and the this
you
and the
know,
that. It's like, oh no, and then they're widowed, run.
Oh, yes. Yes. I just got one this morning. They're widowed, but they've only been on Facebook for about 4 days. That's a big clue that their profile picture was just put up 2 days ago or something. Then you're like, nope, block.
Yep, and they come up with different names and stuff
Oh,
too.
yes.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
it's and then they go after your friends. Once they're friends of yours, then they go after your circle of friends.
Right.
Well,
Right.
yeah,
Scary.
but usually under a different name, and yeah, it's hard to keep up, dementia or not with all of that stuff. That's for sure.
we also go into people like these coaches and people that exploit people with dementia. And their families are so desperate.
Mhm.
They'll sign up with anything. So I provide a lot of information on how to avoid that, and
Mhm.
that's part of the things I'm pretty proud of the book is that we do that, and in the thought of protection, and
Mhm.
and from someone who's been there and done that.
Yep. Yep. Wonderful. For misconceptions about the disease and the journey, what do you think those are, Ginger? For the person who gets diagnosed, where do you think their head goes to first when they hear that diagnosis?
Well, of course, as a speech pathologist, I knew what the path was, and it was horrifying. I mean, life was over. Just go home and rot, basically. And if you had a certain type of dementia where you had no filter, it would be horrifying to the poor families. I went through quite a period of depression, actually. And for me, whatever was the cause of my turnaround, I'm totally different. I'm totally thankful for my life right now, for people, my posse, Shanlynn, you. I'm leading a good life. And then my hope is the inspiration of people is don't give up, hang around, do the good thing. There are a lot of good things out there. Little things, like your diet, your exercise, music. There's so much. It's in the book too. That can add joy to your life, even if you have a dementia. And the people in my caregiver groups, they're fun. I mean, they talk about real life and the difficulties, but they also talk about the joy and purpose. Purpose is a big one for our groups, by the way. When I came home, I had no purpose. Then I started with the journaling and the book, and I developed a purpose, and that's kept the joy and the fun in my life right now.
Now, Shanlynn, you know had talked about in terms of dealing with your own family. Do you see, like, in terms of what people can learn from this book being applicable to other diseases and things as well?
Oh, sure. Yeah, definitely. And it's just not only me, by the way. I'm not saying I'm unique. I'm the only person in the world who had a turnaround. That I think it can share with any sort of disease that has supposed to have a terminal diagnosis like mine was supposedly. All the tips that caregivers can apply to those very well. I'm a communication specialist. That's my career. I have a lot about communication, about how, you sit when someone's in a wheelchair, you sit next to them, and all those good ones, and listening, and how listening skills. That's part of the book too, because that's what I work with as a clinician. I worked at Stanford, and places like that, and I was able to teach physicians how to treat people with dementia and put on a lot of programs and person-to-person trainings as part of my career too. So my joy is the fact that it's a different world than it was for me 15 years ago when I was first working in dementia or terminal illnesses. It's a different world now, thank goodness. Every day there's a new thing that comes out. Oh, we got this. It's the butt. It's the gut. No, we thought that. Just 2 days ago, there's a thing about they could something about your vision. I'm excited reading. I really keep up with the reading. That's one good thing with our book. It's so current. It's exactly what's happening right now. So pick it up because it has all this. The one thing that's kind of just throw this around. I was Dustin Hoffman, the actor's roommate at one point, and I acted with him at the Pasadena Playhouse. Gene Hackman was there too, and that's in the one. Shanlynn and I kind of threw that in the last chapter because it was so current. The horrifying thing that would happen to that man with Alzheimer's, no help. No, for instance, now on my watch, if I fall, it'll inform my son. He had nothing, none of that. If his wife only had had the education, that would have been a different story. It really would have been. And just to read that broke my heart as a person who I didn't know him. I didn't ever act with him, but he was there at the Pasadena Playhouse. He was quite a guy.
Yeah. Well, and it just says, money doesn't protect you from this, and it doesn't guide you from this as well. So, Shanlynn, as far as you're concerned, do you agree with Ginger that her book can help other people dealing with different diagnoses as well?
I do, probably mostly with cognitive issues, but not solely, because we do go into different things such as, somatic healing from traumas, people that have been traumatized by anything, which these days, there's a lot of people out there that carry different kinds of trauma with them, and it can manifest in their bodies as all different kinds of issues. It doesn't have to be a cognitive or a neurological issue. And so the book also touches on some of that and how that can be overcome and dealt with to basically cleanse your body of these traumatic experiences. Your body holds on to the stress from those things. You don't realize it, but just talking about stuff doesn't always make things just magically disappear like into unicorn dust. So we wanted to kind of, and it does touch on, we wanted to add something for everyone, basically. And most people have been through trauma. Most people know someone who's been through trauma or is touched by one of these cognitive diseases. So yes, I do think it could be very helpful.
Yeah, I think too, from my perspective, I think any caregiver tips or resources can overlap from one health condition to another, or maybe it's not even a health condition. Maybe it's just how you treat one another as family or friends
Exactly.
as well. And so, I think there's so many things that are similar in terms of care style and care techniques that we don't really talk about. We kind of
Right.
get into this is what I'm talking about, and it's like, yeah, but you can use this for just about anything. I have a communications trifold that people can download from my website. And I've written it dementia specific, but I always tell people you can use this on a 2-year-old or a 102-year-old. You can use it on your friend, your neighbor, your spouse, your child. It doesn't, your coworker, a stranger, because it's all about tapping into the multisensory skills and the non-judgment and the calming voice and the eye
Yeah.
contact. Like when Ginger was saying, sit down with someone who's in a wheelchair. So you've got that eye contact and that you're really attentively listening. And I think in this day and age of technology and, thumb arthritis from texting, we're losing how to communicate with one another. I mean, even people at holidays complain they're sitting around the dinner table and everyone's on their phone, instead of knowing how to talk to one another anymore.
Right.
So, and those things add to the stress, I think, of living with the disease or caring for somebody with a health condition as well.
Mm.
Definitely.
Ginger, what's next for you?
Oh, taking a rest for a while. We've been really at it. I've been doing a lot of interviews, thank goodness, because we really feel strongly about our book and want to get it out and want to be there to help people. My birthday, my grandson's kind of come up and surprised me. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's another book. I have a family member, well, my son actually, who's leading an incredibly wonderful life of rejuvenation that might be worth it. But I'm getting on there too, so I want to kind of take it easy a little bit for a
Sure.
while.
How about you, Shanlynn?
Same. I've got some health issues to deal with, and my husband has some. But I still want to have a purpose each day too. So I am looking for my next book project, but not until I want to continue marketing this one and making sure that it does well. I also want to turn it into an audio book. I think it could do really well as an audio book. There's lots of people who love that kind of thing, and this would be a really interesting one that I think people would love to listen to. I also want to turn one of my other books into an audiobook. So that takes a little bit of work and money to do. So I'm hoping that I can make those things happen. So
If anybody could, it's Shanlynn. She's a perfectionist extraordinaire.
well, that's not always a good thing though. I triple check everything, but that doesn't mean I'm very quick at getting it done. So
Yeah, but for getting through that book in like 9 months, that's massive. I mean, that was really a short period of time if people don't really understand what it takes to get through a book. And I mean, I have a
it,
30
yeah.
page children's book, and it took us longer than that to get it all.
Oh, wow. Yeah. It was a monumental task. I will say that. But the day it was done, when I hit that this is the final PDF and it's done, that feeling, you probably know what it's like. That feeling is just, oh my gosh, I did it. We did it,
Yeah.
We did it.
So it was great.
Wonderful. Um, Ginger, what's your greatest hope in terms of sharing the book? What's your greatest hope in sharing this book? What are you looking at for ideal outcomes?
Well, they're not really just my story, but they're inspired by the whole process of what Shanlynn and I were able to put together. So inspirational.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you, ladies, for taking this hour to spend with us. I really appreciate it so much. As far as contact information goes, can get her book on Amazon. Can they get that through your website as well?
Yes, I do have a page on there on my website with the link to it. And it will be a live book that they can actually order the paperback as of May 29th as well. Right now, you can just pre-order the ebook, but I know that this will be after the 29th launch, this will be live. So yes, you can get that at either my website or on Amazon. I am going to go on to other places too, but Amazon right now is the biggest one. And if you do well on Amazon, you can pretty much go anywhere else you want. So that's where we're at right now.
Do you want to give people your website URL?
Yes, you can go to srhattonbooks.com. I'm sorry, and it's SRHATTON books.com. And that will get you to all the books that I have published on there. And then otherwise you can search just for Dementia Denied, SR Hatton on Amazon, and it should also bring it up if that's easier for folks.
Okay. And then you also have a Facebook page too?
I do. I run the Dementia Caregivers Corner Facebook page, and I think it's just at Dementia Caregivers Corner. It's the location, and I put all kinds of tips and things on there all the time. And you can also find the links to the book. As a pinned post, I've got the top post. They can find it there.
And then Ginger, you are on Instagram as Ginger Smith 104, and you are on Facebook as Ginger Smith, though I know a couple of Ginger Smiths pull up, and so we'll have the direct link in our comments on that. You can reach Ginger by email as well, and that is gingerspeech
SPEECH
at gmail.com. Well, ladies, again, thank you so much for our audience. I just always like to ask them to be a giver of hope. Like, click, and share this show. I don't really care about the numbers. I know everyone else seems to be chasing numbers. I just want to get the information out to the people who need it. And, it costs you no money and it takes very little time to help elevate the work of others. And it can really help people grab a hold of things when they need it, because there's people in our spheres that we don't even know are dealing with this because they haven't felt comfortable enough to talk about it. But the more we can make this a welcoming and diverse set of opportunities, I don't care if it's a researcher, if it's a person living with dementia, family, whatever it might be, business, a service, product, or tool, the more people start seeing it, the more normal it becomes and the more okay it feels for them to get the help that they need and deserve. So
Absolutely.
again, please be a giver of hope. And from Alzheimer's Speaks, we appreciate all of your following us and your support over the years. I can't believe I've been doing this since 2009 already. And, we wouldn't be here without you guys. So again, thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Lori. Very much. Appreciate it.
We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Hope so.
Hey.
Love to.
Bye.
Caring for someone with dementia is one of the toughest journeys, but you don't have to do it alone. I'm Allison Schreier, and my experience caring for my husband inspired me to create Zinnia, a therapeutic streaming service designed to support people living with dementia and reduce caregiver stress. Zinnia offers research-backed videos intentionally created for people with dementia, engaging, calming, and easy to follow. Whether you need to ease agitation, create moments of joy, or make daily routines smoother, Zinnia is here to help. Family and professional caregivers use our content to turn challenges into opportunities for connection. Accessible by subscription on mobile devices and connected TVs, Zinnia is simple to use whenever you need it. Because when caregiving feels easier, life feels better. Go to zinniatv.com and sign up for a free trial today. Use the code RESOURCE for 15% off an annual Zinnia subscription.